Homage to the original master Shakyamuni Buddha. Today, we begin our study of the Dhammapada. The Dhammapada Sutra belongs to the Khaddaka Nikaya, small collection, of the Nikaya collection within the early scriptures, and within the Agama collection, there is also a similar Dhammapada Sutra. The Dhammapada consists of verses, sometimes 5 or 6 sentences, or 4 sentences, each section speaking on a certain point of the way's reasoning, and is concise and easy to understand. Therefore, the Dhammapada Sutra is propagated very widely throughout the world. It seems almost every country has translated the Dhammapada, except for a few Muslim countries. And the Dhammapada is easy to understand. For example, today we will study this passage. Mind precedes all mental states, mind is the chief, they are mind-made. If one speaks or acts with an impure mind, suffering follows one, as the wheel follows the hoof of the ox. The second passage, conversely, is the same. Mind precedes all mental states, mind is the chief, they are mind-made. If one speaks or acts with a pure mind, happiness follows one, like a shadow that never departs. Easy to understand? Easy to understand? Understood, right? Then there's no need to explain it further. Okay? That's right, the Dhammapada is like that, short passages that when read, we feel as if we already understand. Therefore, the task of explaining the Dhammapada is truly a bit redundant, a bit unnecessary. Thus, after we listen to it a few times, we get bored. Today, we listen once out of curiosity just to know. But if it's explained a few more times, oh my goodness, I understood it all before the lecture. Why bother explaining? So, let's see. Today, we still have a study session. On the first day of the lunar month, we also study one more session, and then we'll probably rest completely. Rest completely until next year. Next year, we will meet again. That is, this coming first day of the lunar month. We still have one more Dhammapada session. Then we'll meet again next year. Next year, it is likely we will not meet on the first day of the lunar month anymore, but we will meet on the Sunday morning of the third week of the lunar month, as the abbot has arranged. There is a schedule, we will follow that. So, returning to the Dhammapada, because it's in short, easy to understand passages like that, it seems everyone likes it. There are sutras with difficult to understand meanings that require explanation, and precisely because of that, people are often hesitant. Those with wisdom like it. Those without wisdom don't seek to understand. But the Dhammapada is strangely different in that everyone understands it. Read it, it's simple, everyone understands. And therefore, everyone likes it. However, depending on the level of development, we will see how deep or shallow our understanding of these Dhammapada verses is. The Dhammapada, the Pali word is Dhammapada. That's how we say it smoothly, but if spoken by the monks, the intonation is a bit different. Dhammapada. Dhamma is Dhamma. Here, Dhamma has many meanings, but the word Dhamma here means the Buddha's teachings. That is the basic meaning, as the word Dhamma has many meanings. Sometimes this Dhamma also means everything in the world. That is also called Dhamma, but usually we understand Dhamma as the Buddha's teachings. Pada means sentence or verse, so putting them together becomes Dharma verses. Simple like that. But in another meaning, the word pada also means a footstep, and the word Dhamma also means truth. So, Dhammapada means footsteps on the path to truth. The second meaning sounds very lovely, sounds very beautiful, while the simplest meaning, Dharma verses, is each sentence of the Buddha's teachings. That's the meaning. As for the meaning where pada, in another sense, is footstep and Dhamma is truth, then it means each footstep walking toward the truth. The meaning is like that. These sentences, the Buddha taught them concisely, and always because there was some event. The Buddha didn't just say them for no reason. It's not that for no reason the Buddha said those few sentences we just heard. Not for no reason did the Buddha say that. But there was an event that happened, and then the Buddha would tell a background story from ancient lives, how the situation occurred like this, like that, what the cause and effect are now, like this, like that, and then the Buddha would summarize it, make it sharp in a few concise sentences. Therefore, when studying the Dhammapada, people must usually be told the background story. Only then do we feel it's more thorough, more comfortable. Otherwise, if we just hear these sentences for no reason, without knowing why the Buddha said them, but there is a clear reason. According to the early scriptures, we have 423 Dhammapada verses. It said 423 verses, but in truth, there are verses that are identical. For example, the two we just read have opposite meanings, but are otherwise completely identical. Therefore, two verses are treated as one. Because of that, 423 Dhammapada verses, if we study them, it might be condensed down to only about 100 and something verses. 100 and something verses, and if we study one a month, that's over 100 months. About 10 years and it's finished. Nothing to it. 10 years and it's done. We will listen to the Dhammapada and we will find it boring. Because this time we hear the Dhammapada. The next time we hear the Dhammapada. The first year we'll see a large crowd, but the next year it starts to get sparser and sparser until the end of the Dhammapada collection. And only the lecturer is left here. It's like that. Here, the Dhammapada Sutra translated into Vietnamese has also been translated by many authors, not just one person. The version we are studying. Here is the version by the Most Venerable Thich Minh Chau. His version translates closely to the original meaning, and he does not place heavy emphasis on the poetic quality. He doesn't polish it or bend it to make it into a poem. His intention is to be close to the Pali words. Therefore, we hear that the poetic quality is not high. What we just read is similar to that. The speaker, have also corrected a few words to make it a little easier to understand, but his translation is like that. There are many authors who translate the Dhammapada, translating it into 6/8 Lukbat poetry, which also sounds very pleasant. However, because we want it to be close to the original Pali meaning, we use the translation by the Most Venerable Thich Minh Chau. If anyone has the opportunity and we encounter other translations, especially those in 6/8 poetry, you should also consult them for enjoyment because many translations are very good. Very good. But anyway, we must use the version by the Most Venerable Thich Minh Chau. That passage earlier has a background story like this. We'll listen to the story for a bit to know why the Buddha stated this viewpoint. This Dhammapada verse. Mind precedes all mental states. Mind is the chief. They are mind-made. If one speaks or acts with an impure mind, suffering follows one, as the wheel follows the hoof of the ox. This passage is very easy to understand, isn't it? That is, the mind is the root of all things. If we want to speak or act, the mind must go first, right? The mind must decide first, then we speak. If we want to curse someone, the mind must also arise first, then the mind controls the mouth. If we want to hit someone, the mind must control the hand, then we can hit them. So mind is the chief, the maker is like that. But if that mind is a bad mind, it is guaranteed to be bad speech, bad action, and the consequence will be bad. That's all the meaning is. Very easy. So even without hearing the explanation, one can understand it, it's fine. The story happened like this. In the time of the Buddha, there was a family that gave birth to 2 children. The elder son later ordained and followed the Buddha, taking the name Kakupala. The family of these 2 brothers, the parents were very wealthy, so they left a large inheritance for the 2 brothers. But the older brother later aroused the mind to ordain. After meeting the Buddha, he aroused a strong mind to ordain, leaving his entire fortune to his younger brother. The venerable Kakupala, after following the Buddha and ordaining, was an extremely diligent person, practicing with utmost seriousness. He was, it must be said, a true practitioner, an elder of shining virtue. Then one time, preparing for a rains retreat, preparing for the retreat period, Venerable Kakupala led a number of monks, bhikkhus, to request to go to a village for the rains retreat. The Buddha agreed. So he, along with a number of bhikkhus, journeyed to an area that was quite far, and then asked the villagers to show them a place. The villagers pointed to a place that had a forest, a few sparse houses, also not too far from the village, so they could go for alms. During a meeting where they sat and talked, the Venerable One advised his brothers, "During these 3 months, try to be diligent in your practice. And each person must vow how they will be diligent, in a suitable way." The other monks also said they would keep the schedule, They would try to be diligent in their practice and so on. As for the Venerable One said, "During this rain's retreat, I will vow to maintain only 3 postures: walking, standing, and sitting. I will not lie down in order to be diligent in practice." His willpower was iron, and from then on, he no longer lay down. Meaning, when sleeping, it was also sitting sleep, or standing or walking to maintain mindfulness. We have heard of some who practice austerities, like not lying down to rest. There are 2 reasons for those people. First, those people have extremely good health. Second, those people are extremely diligent. Why? Because they believe that when lying down, the mind will easily become a bit dull. So they want to not lie down, only practicing in the 3 postures of standing, walking, sitting, so the mind always has mindfulness, able to control the mind. These are strange examples of diligence, rare in this world. Venerable Kakupala was also such a person. He had iron willpower, and he vowed not to lie down. When he vowed not to lie down for a period like that, his eyes began to get sick. It's not known for what reason. Other venerables, some also vowed not to lie down, but their eyes didn't get sick. But for him, his eyes began to turn red. They swelled up, and it was very difficult for him to walk, to go for alms. It reached the point where many people had to support him as he walked. Later, the villagers heard about it, and they came and brought a doctor who specialized in treating eyes. This person, after examining his illness, said, "This illness is not severe, it can be cured." So he gave instructions. Before you lie down to sleep, you must put drops of medicine into your nose, because this medicine could not be applied directly to the eyes, but when dropped into the nose, from the nose it would flow back up into the eyes, gradually, it would absorb, and the illness would be cured. But dropping it directly into the eyes was not good. It's not known. In the old days they had many good sciences, good medicines. A week later he returned. He saw the Venerable's eyes were still swollen, hadn't budged at all. He said, "Your illness and my medicine must be effective. There is something that you have not complied with." He sat and asked for a while, "Are you lying down? After putting in the medicine, do you lie down?" The Venerable was silent. He did not answer. He pressed him again and again, and then he knew the Venerable was not lying down. The doctor then said, "If you do not lie down, the medicine cannot absorb back up from the nose to the eyes, and the illness cannot be cured. Therefore, my hands are tied. My medicine must be like this. Anyone can be cured, but if you refuse to lie down, then it is no longer my responsibility." After saying that, he left. The doctor was also very firm, very decisive, and the Venerable was also the stubborn type. He refused to lie down. So the medicine did not absorb back up, and other medicines applied topically did not heal it, and so he became blind. He became blind. When he became blind, the old story records as a comfort that he also attained the path. However, when I, the speaker, read that passage, again I was skeptical. I don't think he attained the path, because the manifestations later are not clear signs of someone who has attained arahantship. It's possible he attained something, but attained one of the other 3 fruits: Sotapanna, stream-enter, Sakadagami, once-returner, or Anagami, non-returner. I don't think he attained arahantship. However, the background story records that he attained the fruit of arahantship. After that, the other bhikkhus finished the retreat and went back to stay with the Buddha. When they returned, they reported the story that he had become blind. The news reached the family of the younger brother. The younger brother sent his son on a long journey to find and bring his uncle back. He had to be led holding one end of a staff, while the Venerable held the other. But this person was a newly grown boy. He held the end of the staff, the other person held the other end, leading him. Along the way, the young man met a girl. That girl was also a bit alluring, and so the young man pretended, saying, "Elder, please sit here and rest a bit. I'll go get some water." He left, following the girl, and it's not known what happened. He never returned. He was gone. It's not known what kind of infatuation with the girl was so strong. It's not known. Such suffering. So the Venerable sat and waited. He sat. Dangerous. The Venerable just sat there, and the sky gradually turned to evening, and that boy was gone completely. It's not known if he succeeded with the girl, but he didn't come back. It's not known what the result was. The story doesn't mention it again. So strange. At that time, Sakka, king of Devis, in the heavens his heart was moved. The throne he sat on trembled. He then used his divine eye to look down and saw that there was a truly practicing elder who was facing a miserable situation. Blind, sitting in the middle of the forest, and the person guiding him was infatuated with a girl and ran off. So, he manifested, pretending to be a traveler, and asked to lead the Venerable back to the Buddha's monastery. When Sakka, king of Devis, personally manifested to lead him, everything went well. The road was shortened and so on. He arrived back safely. When he returned, the bhikkhus asked the Buddha about the story of an elder who practiced so diligently, so righteously, and vowed not to lie down like that. Yet why did he become blind? The Buddha then told the past life cause. The Buddha said that long ago, in a very ancient time, there was a woman. She had 3 children. Her husband died, and she had to raise the 3 children. Then she got an eye disease. Her eyes were also as if blind. Then a doctor came to treat her. She then said this, "I am poor, I have no money to pay you. If you can cure my eyes so they are healed, from now on, I and my 3 children will follow and serve you, as if to repay the debt." It was also like paying the debt. The doctor agreed. He was a skilled doctor, so he took medicine and applied it to her eyes. He applied it for a week and she could see again. After she could see again, she broke her promise. She broke her promise. She thought, now it's done. He only applied it for 1 week, and I have to take the rest of my life, all 4 of us, to go and serve him. It's a bit of a waste. She pretended not to go. The doctor then knew that this woman had broken her promise. He got angry. He got angry. We must remember this detail. Got angry. He got angry. He then gave her more medicine, saying, "This is to make them even brighter." He gave her more medicine. She applied it and she immediately became blind again. And the doctor left, never returning. And so she was blind for the rest of her life. The Buddha then said, that elder in his past life was precisely that doctor. For many lives he was blind. And today, having met the Buddha, practicing, encountering the true Dhamma, practicing, the karma for blindness was still not exhausted. Even after attaining the fruit of the path, he still had to be blind to pay for his previous karma. Even though he had planted causes with the Buddhadhamma, met the Buddha and practiced, he still had to be blind. It was because of that event that the Buddha said, "Mind precedes all mental states. Mind is the chief, they are mind-made. If one speaks or acts with an impure mind, suffering follows one, as the wheel follows the hoof of the ox." Meaning that doctor got angry. When he got angry because the other woman didn't keep her promise to follow and serve him, to be his slave, he applied the medicine, and the woman became blind again, for her whole life. No one else cured her. And he said, it was precisely that anger, that angry mind, that caused him to commit the act of harming another person, making her blind again. And the suffering, the consequence, followed him life after life. That is the story, the cause, for which the Buddha spoke this Dhammapada passage. Then, for the second Dhammapada passage, the opposite one, mind precedes all mental states, mind is the chief, they are mind-made. If one speaks or acts with a pure mind, happiness follows one, like a shadow that never departs. There was also a similar event. In the time of the Buddha, there was an event like this. There was a rich man in that house, a wealthy treasurer, very wealthy, but extremely stingy. His whole life, money went into his pocket, but it never dropped out. The people who worked for him, those who borrowed from him or asked him for favors, only ever brought profit to him. That is, a person who extremely exploited others, relying on his wealth to exploit others. He had only one son, whom he loved very much. Loved him, yes, but never wanted to spend money. One time, this son grew up and unfortunately fell gravely ill. The wife urged the husband, call a doctor to treat him, but he was too stingy with his money. He didn't want to spend money on a doctor. So he said, it's probably nothing. In a few days, he'll be fine. In a few days, he'll be fine. The wife was furious, crying and wailing. He just kept delaying. Besides, he was afraid of spending money, so he didn't call a doctor. It reached the point where the son was sick and gasping, near death. Only then did he place the bed in the courtyard. He let his son lie there. He hoped that some doctor passing by would take pity and cure him for free. It's not known if anyone here is that stingy. That morning, the Buddha woke up early, around 2 or 3 a.m. The Buddha woke up. He sat in meditation and he used his Buddha eye. He observed the world. He confirmed one more time the specific work for that day, who he would guide or what things he would do. Usually, the Buddha was like that. His life, he had already seen immeasurable eons ahead, but every day, he would confirm it one more time. Then, during that day, he would do the work of that day. That day, he would go for alms, he would visit someone, or he would return to the monastery early to wait for someone. Meaning, he actively arranged everything. He knew everything in advance. That day was the same. He entered meditation, he observed. He saw that there was a son of a stingy treasurer who had a connection, karma, with him, and his illness was about to be terminal. But he had a connection with him. He would also guide him. That day, the Buddha, instead of going for alms elsewhere, he took his alms bowl and walked in the direction of that family. When he arrived, the young man was lying facing inward. Facing inward, he didn't see the Buddha. The Buddha also pretended not to know anything, but he used his psychic powers. He emitted a ray of light. This young man, he turned his face inward toward the house as he lay there. He also felt sorry for himself and also very sad. His father was rich but wouldn't call a doctor to cure him, leaving him to lie in the courtyard, hoping someone would cure him charitably. He was also sad, so he felt sorry for himself, and he lay facing inward, not facing the road. Facing inward, but suddenly he saw a circle of light behind his back, shining brightly. He then groaned softly, and he turned over. He opened his eyes, and saw the Buddha, from afar, slowly walking toward him. Behind the Buddha were the bhikkhus, extremely dignified, their virtue radiant. And the Buddha, at that moment, in the sick eyes of the young man, he saw the Buddha like a brilliant sun, like a mountain of jewels, extremely beautiful, extremely bright. And even though he hadn't heard the Buddha speak a single word, just seeing the Buddha from afar, slowly, majestically walking, dignified, profound, like a royal elephant walking on the clouds. We must remember this. The Buddha's gait must be described like this, like a royal elephant walking on the clouds. What does that mean? It means the Buddha's posture, gait, was very majestic, very profound, but also very light. Remember that. The Buddha walked like that. For example, if we walk lightly but lack profundity, that's not the full posture of the Buddha. Or if someone walks profoundly but it sounds heavy, that's also not the posture of the Buddha. The Buddha's posture, profound, powerful, yet light, as if walking on clouds. He saw this. He saw a person from afar approaching, with a gait like a royal elephant walking on the clouds, like 1,000 suns, like a mountain studded with jewels. At that moment, his heart was moved. He aroused absolute respect for the Buddha, and he couldn't speak anymore. He whispered. He aroused in his mind, I offer to you, Lord, my complete reverence. He aroused that strong, moved mind, and then he breathed his last and passed away. Just like that, breathed his last and passed away. After he breathed his last and passed away, he was immediately reborn in a heavenly realm. Just because of what? Just because of his absolute reverence for the Buddha. That was enough merit. Because in his entire life that had just passed, he had not been able to do many meritorious deeds. Why? Because his father never let him do anything that cost money. And without spending money, Where does merit come from, right? Therefore, he had no merit at all. But at that exact final moment, seeing the Buddha, he aroused absolute reverence. And he was reborn in heaven immediately. Today, if we have absolute reverence for the Buddha, we also harvest a great deal of merit. But do we have absolute reverence for the Buddha yet? Not yet. Why? Because of this, everything we know about the Buddha, understand about the Buddha, is only through where? Through the intermediary of the teachings of the venerable teachers. The venerable teachers cannot fully capture it. Through the intermediary of statues. But no sculptor can carve the beauty of the Buddha like 1,000 suns. Therefore, we cannot admire the Buddha directly to be able to arouse absolute reverence. Even if our minds vow, "May I vow to have absolute reverence for the Buddha," we should make that mental vow. Who knows, if we make that vow for many years, many months, it might come true, that our mind has absolute reverence for the Buddha. And it is guaranteed that for eternal eons to come, we will never be reborn in the evil realms. Meaning, the path ahead of us is a wide open path, always leading to a place of happiness, a noble place. It may be that today, the first time we kneel before the Buddha, we vow to have absolute reverence for the Buddha, but the feeling, the emotion is not at all like that young man's. That young man named Madakandali. Madakandali. We won't get that feeling. But the next day we arouse that thought. The day after that, then this year. Through the next, at some point, we will also accomplish that mind of absolute reverence for the Buddha. And it is guaranteed we will never be reborn in the evil realms. Leaving this body, we will go to a place that is certainly a place of extreme happiness, extreme peace. That is certain. So the story goes, when the father went back out to see if anyone had cured his son for free, he discovered that his son had already departed for the land of hot sand, the distant homeland of misty gunpowder, something like that. So he also wailed and lamented. But then he was startled. He came to his senses. He said, "Oh, now I have to spend money on a coffin." He immediately came to his senses, stopped crying immediately. A very interesting person, just wailing and lamenting, his wife too. But while crying, he suddenly remembered he had to buy a coffin. His tears dried up immediately. He was thinking of a way not to spend money on a coffin. The story later, when this heavenly being, Madakandali, from the high heavens, looked down, he saw the person who was recently his father, but whose miserly, stingy mind had not ended. He was very pitiful. So this heavenly being manifested, coming down to explain to his father, to advise him to arouse a wholesome mind. This man, after that conversation, he truly saw that his son had been reborn in heaven. He then asked the reason why he was reborn in heaven. This son then said that it was just because of the absolute reverence for the Buddha, that when he passed away, he was reborn in heaven. So that's the story. Then the bhikkhus heard that story, went back and asked the Buddha. The Buddha confirmed, "It is true. This young man had not done much, but at the final moment of his life, he brought all of his feelings to revere the Buddha and was reborn in heaven. And because of that event, the Buddha spoke the second Dhammapada. Verse, mind precedes all mental states. Mind is the chief. They are mind-made. If one speaks or acts with a pure mind, happiness follows one, like a shadow that never departs." There. So, from two stories. One story of the doctor who, out of anger, applied medicine to make the person blind again, and the story of the young man Madakandali who, just through reverence for the Buddha, was reborn in heaven. From those two stories, we have two Dhammapada verses. Two Dhammapada verses that are similar, just the opposite. Because of this, we group the two verses together as one, for us to study today. And after hearing it, we can understand it immediately. That is, if we want to speak or act, our mind must think first, right? The mind thinks first, then one speaks or acts. Thus, if the mind is good, we will do good actions, speak good words, and will receive good results. That formula is completely logical, completely easy to understand, and doesn't need anyone to ramble on and explain it further, right? Doesn't need anyone to ramble on and explain it further. Agree? Agree, yes? Can we stop? The Dhammapada is like that. We listen and we get the feeling we understand it immediately, right? So easy to understand, so clear, so concise. However, it may look that way, but if we are willing, if we dig deeper, we will see that there are still many intricate issues in there. Not simple. For example, it says, mind precedes all mental states. So what is mind? What is mind? So let's talk a bit about what is mind. Actually, in our mind, there are many components. We can't just say mind in general. In the mind, there is a lot. For example, right now we look at the flower. We know this flower here is red, that one is yellow. That is one part of the mind. It is the discriminating mind. Or we sit and do math. We take numbers, calculate, add, subtract, divide, multiply, square, exponentiate, whatever that is. Another part of the mind. That part is for calculating, doing math. Or we write poetry. We connect words, ideas, rhymes, arranging them. That is another region of the mind responsible for that. Or we love someone. That part of the mind belongs to feelings. We hate or we remember, that belongs to memory. Or we create then the ability, the intelligence, the mind's judgment, and so on. Meaning, we say mind, but in reality, the mind is a very complex block of many components. Not easy. And the most important part of the mind that can give rise to action is precisely must have the want. Previously, when we studied the Diamond Sutra, we talked about it, right? The mind consists of 3 parts. What are they? Knowing, willing, wanting, and karma, action. Remember last time we studied, if anyone hasn't heard this, please listen again to the Diamond Sutra series. Today we also talk about the mind. We'll repeat it a bit, but from a different aspect. The part of the mind that causes us to give rise to speech and action, that is the intention or want. For example, when we look at a person, we go over and greet them. Before we go and greet them, does it happen that we don't think anything and just go and greet them? No, we want to. For some reason, we have a want, so we go and greet that person. Or we see a poor person, we want to help. We must have the want to help, right? Or someone steps on our foot, takes a high heel, a sharp one, and steps on our foot, it hurts so much and we want what? Depends on each person. But the point is, there must be a want before there is speech and action. Do the devotees agree? Agree. The truth is not that simple. The truth is not as simple as just having the want and we act. No. The chain from the mind to the action is much more complicated. For example, right now I want to take this flower basket and give it to the old lady in here. In my head, I have the want, but I still haven't done it, right? Many times we want, but we still haven't done it, right? But when do we start to do it? There is another mind that is decision. So, from the want to the action, there must be a decision. For example, looking at the old lady, suddenly I remember my great-grandmother, for example. Remembering my great-grandmother in the past, she was also frail and wrinkly like that. Remembering my great-grandmother, in my heart, let me give this flower basket to the old lady. Want, but still standing still, not doing it. Just glancing, that's all. Not doing it yet. But when the decision is made, the hand grabs the flower basket, brings it down, and hands it over immediately. So, from the want to the action, there must be a decision. However, today we won't analyze that decision. It's complicated. We will just stop at the want for analysis. So, it's clear if we can control our want, we can know what we are about to do, right? About to do. But, I must say, there is a very strange thing. It seems we rarely pay attention to what we are wanting. Why is that? Because that want is a bit deep inside. It's a bit deep. It doesn't sit shallowly on the outside. In our minds, we are having thoughts right now, right? If not listening to the lecture, we look at our mind, what's in there? It's chattering about something, right? There are words, right? Right? If not, then everyone here is in deep meditation jhana. Now stop listening. It's clear that in our minds there's some chattering, right? Right? Surely not everyone is in jhana. It's clear we have thoughts in our head, right? But those thoughts are not yet the want. The want lies hidden, deeper. We don't see it. Therefore, for example, a person passes by a noodle soup shop. Suddenly, they stop their bike, turn in, and eat. But they don't even think, I just had a want. They don't see the want. They only see craving, like, want to eat. But there is a want. Most of us don't see our want. But it is precisely that want that leads us to do this, say that all day long. Precisely that want. So if a person practices and can frequently see what they are wanting, that person is a master of their own soul. That is a true practitioner. And the day of their enlightenment is not far. If anyone sees their want frequently, in a moment we will see. Sometimes a person enters meditation, a Zen master, and still doesn't see their want at all. The want is that deep. It's not easy. But if there is no intention, we don't say or do anything. So now, if there is a want, we start to create karma. Create karma. Having a want is when karma is created. For example, we want to give a gift to someone, or we want to harm someone. We want to praise someone with a sentence, or we want to scold someone with a sentence. There must be a want first. Then, we create karma. That is, we interact with sentient beings, creating wholesome karma or unwholesome karma for ourselves. The want comes first. And in the 12 links of dependent origination, the Buddha said this: feeling begets craving, craving begets clinging, clinging begets becoming. This is very long. Let's repeat it. Feeling begets craving, craving begets clinging, clinging begets becoming. Feeling means our sensations. The like, the prefer, the dislike, the sad, the happy of ours. That is feeling. It begets craving. It gives rise to the intention. Craving is the intention to do something. Then craving begets clinging. Clinging is when one starts to act to really create karma. Meaning, once there is craving, there will be clinging. Meaning, once there is intention, there will be the act of creating karma. And clinging will give rise to becoming. Meaning, once there is the act of creating karma, there is a realm of existence waiting for us in the next life. Becoming is the realm of existence that we will be reborn into. It begins to gradually appear. Becoming is the picture of the next life, the life in the next life, waiting for us. When today, every hour, we are clinging/grasping, that is, we are creating karma. Feeling is our sensation. Feeling begets craving, meaning sensation gives rise to intention. Craving begets clinging, meaning that intention causes us to create karma. Clinging begets becoming, meaning that creation of karma builds our life in the next life. So some people have a very good becoming up in the heavenly realms. Some people have a very good becoming in the human realm. Some people have a very bad becoming. The becoming is the life in the next life, which is created by the clinging. The clinging is the act of creating karma. So it is said, the mind creates all. But we must understand more carefully, it is precisely our intention that causes us to create karma. And once karma is created, the result has already taken shape, step by step. It's just waiting for the day we step into it. Meaning, when we die here, we will be reborn in that place. It's because we have already determined everything. It's not that we wait until we die and then find a place to be reborn. That's not how it works. Don't misunderstand that when I die, I start to look for a rich family to be reborn into. No. Why? Because the place we are reborn into in the next life, in this life, we have already built it all. We built who the father is, who the mother is, how far we study, what our name is, what our family name is in this life. We have already built it all, completely. Created it all. And when we die waiting for the conditions to be sufficient, we are reborn there. That's just continuing a new life. We cannot resist it. We can never resist our next life. We can never change it. Why? Because we ourselves are the ones who determined it. We ourselves created it all. Here, we just said to each other that because we want, we speak, we act. However, if it's a good want, we do a good thing. If it's a bad want, we do a bad thing. But for a want to appear in our mind, there are many other conditions. Many other conditions. For example, today is Sunday. It's late at night, 4 a.m. We hear the temple bell. And of the 1,000 people living around this temple at 4 a.m., maybe 300 people wake up. Those 300 people wake up. They all hear the temple bell at 4 a.m. in the deep night. But among those 300 people, only about 100 arouse the intention this morning, I will go to the temple. The other 200 people do not arouse that intention. So, they all hear the same thing, but one person wants this, but another person doesn't want that. That person wants something else. They want, this morning, I'll go play somewhere. So we see it's clear the want has its reasons, has conditions, has many factors that push it, create it. It's not that everyone always wants the same thing. For example, when we are hungry, we want what? Want to eat. When we are hungry, we want to eat. So, the want to eat, where does it come from? Where does the want to eat come from? It's pushed by the body's needs, right? That's normal. Anyone who is hungry wants to eat. But there is a person who is hungry and does not want to eat. The need acts on the mind to create the want to eat. But this person, besides that bodily need, they also have another factor that erases that want to eat. That is, for example, that person last month they weighed themselves and saw the scale jump up, it fluctuated around 89 kilograms. 89 kilograms. While they are only 1 meter 49.5 tall. 1 meter 49.5. And the scale jumps, fluctuating at 89 kilograms, not yet 90. So this person, when the hunger arises but the other want, the want to lose weight is stronger. Therefore, even though hungry they don't want to eat. But normally, a person who is skinny as a stick like me, the speaker, hear what happens? Hungry immediately want to eat. So we see the intention is not the same for everyone. There are many conditions that create the intention, right? Or when it itches, we want to scratch. That is the body's need. But some people itch and don't want to scratch. Who is that? It's the person who is sitting in meditation. Sitting in meditation. Meaning, when sitting in meditation, who knows what ant or mosquito is truly being cheeky, has no other time to play, but comes to bite when we are sitting in meditation. Biting, gritting teeth, but what? Cannot scratch. Often the want must be erased. Because, glancing over they see the meditation monitor holding a stick, walking back and forth, it's embarrassing. Only when that person walks away do they quickly stick a hand in and then close their eyes again, sitting properly. So there are cases like that. Therefore, not every want is the same despite the conditions. Why? Because there are many factors in the mind. There must be some factor to create that want. It's not all the same. Or, for example, the other day it was raining. I didn't bring a raincoat. My motorbike swerved into a house. When I swerved into the house, I discovered this house, although it has eaves. Inside there are people, some children, sitting huddled in one corner. That corner wasn't leaking, but the other places water was dripping plop plop, soaking wet everywhere. This spot was covered with a piece of nylon, that spot covered with a piece of nylon. So the kids huddled into the corner of the bed. That spot had no rain leaking. Sitting and waiting for the rain to stop before stepping out to work. I saw the house was too poor, and so I aroused a mind I wanted to help. Aroused the mind wanted to help. So, to have that want to help, it must have many conditions. It's not for no reason. What conditions? What conditions? Seeing a poor, suffering person and arousing the intention to help, it must have the condition that this person has studied who knows how many Buddhist scriptures, right? Has absorbed many of the path's principles into their mind. Is accustomed to doing meritorious deeds. Has often thought about love for sentient beings. Then today, by chance, swerving off the road, seeing a poor house wants to help. But how many travelers, when it rains, have also taken shelter under those eaves? Have also looked in and seen people huddled together on a cold, rainy night, but then just clicked their tongue and turned their back and left, never arousing the want to help, because that other person has not studied the path's principles. But because we unfortunately studied too much of the path's principles, therefore seeing a poor and suffering person, we cannot bear it. Cannot bear it. And that day, for example, I fumbled in my pocket. I only had a little money. I also pulled it out, gave it quickly, and I promised to come back next time. And so the next morning I returned. I gave some more money so that person could buy some roofing sheets to rebuild their house and so on, and asked more about them. That is having the condition of having the path's principles in the mind. Then we see a poor person. We want to help. It's not that everyone who sees a poor person wants to help. Therefore, for a want to appear, there must be certain conditions. Or, for example, a person climbs into bed tossing and turning, arm on their forehead, restless, unable to sleep, suddenly hears the sound of a gecko clucking its tongue, and so sits up, takes the poem they were working on, half finished, and continues writing the poem. The first part, they were stuck. Forget it, go to sleep. But unexpectedly the sound of the gecko clucking its tongue, and they can write the ending. Hearing the gecko cluck its tongue, I miss you and want to curse you. Or something, who knows anyway. So what is the reason? How many people hear the sound of a gecko clucking its tongue but no one arouses the intention to sit up and write a poem? But this person does arouse the intention to write a poem. Why? Because there must be a condition to create that want. The condition is this person is a poet. This person has a half-finished poem. This person always wants to finish whatever they start. Meaning, there are many conditions like that. Only then is there the event of hearing a gecko cluck its tongue and wanting to sit up and finish their poem. We see the want doesn't just appear easily. It must have some condition. Or when we have free time, some people want to go sit in meditation. But some people want to go play somewhere to fill the empty space. Some people, meaning any free moment, they run to the Buddha altar and sit in meditation. But other people, any free moment, they run to play games, listen to music to use up the time. It's the same free time, same empty time. But one person arouses the intention to sit in meditation because this person has studied many of the path's principles, wants to cultivate, wants to become a noble one, a saint. But the other person has not studied the path's principles, doesn't want to become a noble one, just wants to have fun. That's it. The difference is like that. It's not easy. So the intention also depends on one's disposition, one's tendency. This is the main tendency. For example, we go into a forest. We see a big tree, 2 or 3 people to wrap their arms around it, soaring up to the blue sky, 40, 50 meters tall, soaring up. The big tree. What do we want? What do we want? What is wanted depends on the person. Depends on each person's disposition. For example, an illegal logger. What does he want? Wants to saw it down immediately. Cut it down, right? Haul it out of the forest, sell it immediately, get the money. And anyone, any forest ranger, who comes to stop him, whack, immediately. But those people with virtue, with the path's principles, with understanding, what do they want? They want to protect this tree, because this tree must be several hundred years old, 400 or 500 years old, or even 1,000 years old. This is a rare treasure of the world, and the forest is still life on earth. If the day comes when the forests are gone, life on earth will also disappear. Knowing this, they love the forest, love the trees. But the illegal logger, what does he love? Loves money. Therefore wants to destroy everything as long as he gets money. So also looking at the tall, big tree, but a poet writes a poem. A person with virtue, with knowledge, wants to protect the forest tree. But the illegal logger only wants to chop it down. The want is completely different. It's due to disposition, due to tendency, due to knowledge, due to virtue. There are many factors that create a want. It's not that every want is the same. And the want then creates karma. Or, for example, someone comes to meet us. They know we have money. They say, right now I have a business plan. If you contribute capital, you give me 1 billion VND. In just 6 months, you will profit 300 million. 1 billion and a profit of 300 million in 6 months. That means a 30% profit in 6 months. Is that large or small? It's terrifying. That profit is unimaginable. So, some people hear that and immediately scrape up, pull out, and give the 1 billion. But some people refuse. What's the reason? Like that, our want depends on our ability to judge as well, right? Some people judge that this person's words are trustworthy. Ability to judge pulls out the money, gives it all. But some people judge these words are not trustworthy. In this world, no one doing business can pay interest on 1 billion. 30% in 6 months, no. So, you see, our want also depends on our ability to judge. If the ability to judge is low, we want foolish things. But if the ability to judge is high, we want something accurate. The want has many factors. Or there's another thing that influences the want. For example, there are 2 friends, they studied together, finished 12th grade. Then one person wants to go pan for gold. He heard that in that area, in the forest, there's a gold area. If we pan and find it, we can get rich quick. And so, this guy packs his bags and goes off to pan for gold. But the other guy wants to go to college. So he registers at the teacher's college. He studies, he graduates, he goes to work as a teacher. Lives a peaceful life. But the person who went to pan for gold went there, encountered malaria, leeches, mosquitoes, and ran into a gang of thugs, and died in the forest. Died in the forest. So we see this, the want is also influenced by karma. A person who has wholesome karma naturally, they want something that leads their life to be peaceful. But a person who has unwholesome karma, that karma pushes them, causing this person to arouse a want that leads their life into a dead end, into a stalemate, and dies right in the forest. Dies, body lost, killed by the thugs. They argued over something, they took a shovel and whack, and he died. So it's clear our want is also influenced by karma. From the analysis just now, the want is due to many things, right? The want is due to bodily needs. The want is due to certain preferences. The want is due to disposition, due to tendency. The want is due to the ability to judge. And the want is also influenced by karma. So we see, for a want to exist, it's not simple. No 2 people are alike. And after the want, then karma is created. So, knowing this, we must always prepare for ourselves good conditions so that whenever we want something, it is guaranteed to be only a good want, so that we create good karma and the result will be good. So, to have that kind of want, we must absorb the path's principles. Must absorb the path's principles. Must study many of the path's principles. Let them soak deep into our hearts. Remind ourselves over and over so our minds become good. From now on, if we meet a poor person, we want to help. If someone, unfortunately, takes a high heel and steps through our foot, we smile, grit our teeth and smile. We apologize first. I'm sorry, I stuck my foot out for you to step on. For example, thank you for stepping on it. Thanks to that, I learned the perfection of patience. Like that, gritting teeth, eyes wide but saying thank you. For example, meaning, we absorb the path's principles so whatever we want is a good thing. And we also train ourselves to have the ability to judge accurately. That is, increase our wisdom. Then we create lots of wholesome karma so that the wholesome karma helps us want reasonable things. Don't let unwholesome karma push us to want foolish things and so on. And the important thing is we must have the ability to restrain ourselves. Remember that. The ability to restrain ourselves so that we don't want foolish things. What is the ability to restrain ourselves? Restraining ourselves is, for example, that thing might bring us pleasure, but if it's sinful, we don't do it. That is knowing how to restrain. For example, we want to eat, but at that time, eating is not proper. Eating at the wrong time. Eating someone else's share eating is not good, then don't eat. That is restraining oneself. Even if at that time we are hungry. Like in the public security, song and newspaper recently, there was a story. A young man was passing by. He saw some kids giggling, looking into a dense bush. He stopped his bike, asked, "What are you doing?" They pointed. He looked in and he saw a couple being intimate in the bush. He then chased the kids away. You are not allowed to watch. Looking at bad things. Chased the kids away. They ran off. Then he poked his eyes in to look. He looked, and at that moment he aroused a want, and he could not restrain himself. He grabbed a stick, he chased the young man away. He turned back and he raped the girl. And of course that act did not succeed, but the police arrested him. So we see this man had a want, and because he could not restrain himself, therefore, in order to have a good want, we must know how to restrain ourselves. This training, the ability to restrain ourselves, is a skill for living in this world. We must practice it hard. From childhood, we must practice it hard. If parents love their children, they must also teach their children this. Teach the child to know how to restrain themselves. Never spoil them. Like on the World Security newspaper, there was a story. A husband and wife loved each other truly, sincerely, faithfully. They got married, had a son, and they promised each other, the love is for our son. Give our son all the best things. And after giving all their love to their son, when he grew up, that kid was a drug addict and a robber. The reason, whatever he wanted, he got. The parents did not teach him to restrain himself, but the parents always taught him to satisfy whatever he wanted. Growing up, he immediately became a robber. Now, full of regret, they wrote an article, published it in the newspaper, expressing their pain. But it was too late. Their child was already in prison, meaning the true love of a couple crystallized into a robber, just because they didn't teach their child to know how to restrain himself. And we are the same. Those people who on Sunday, meaning people invite them to go out, they refuse, don't go, but instead go to the temple to listen to the Dharma. Does that person know how to restrain? Yes, they do. That's also a little bit of knowing. And there are many other things in life. We must remember, the more a person knows how to restrain themselves, the fewer foolish wants that person will have. Fewer foolish wants. Seeing that thing, people are happy seeing that thing. It's inviting, but don't crave it. Don't crave it. If you see the consequence is not good, don't crave it. This point must be firm, must be strong, must be strong. So here, if we have absorbed these conditions, how we have learned the path's principles, we frequently contemplate the path's principles, we know how to restrain ourselves, we know how to practice doing good deeds, then in the future, usually, whenever we want something, it will be a good want. So, when we want good things, we will certainly create good karma, and the result will be extremely good. That is the truth. Nothing more to say. So here, the sutra says this, from an impure mind. One speaks or acts, the consequence will follow as the wheel follows the ox. So the impure mind that the sutra talks about, what mind is it? It is the unvirtuous mental states. For example, the selfish mind, envious, hot-tempered, narrow-minded, arrogant, greedy, not loving nature, no community spirit, addicted to sensual pleasures, loving indulgence, or cowardly. Those are called an impure mind. A person who is cowardly is also called a bad person. They are always afraid for themselves and don't dare to bravely face danger to do something good for the world, for people. That cowardice is also a bad thing. Or addicted to indulgence is a bad thing. Liking to spend extravagantly is a bad thing. Even if you have money, liking to spend extravagantly is a bad thing. Or addicted to sensual pleasures. Sensual pleasures, flesh, men and women is also a bad thing. Then no community spirit is a bad thing. For example, we live in an area we only know ourselves. We don't pay attention. Is our neighborhood getting better? Is there a lot of trash? Are the street lights bright? Is there a damaged section that needs fixing? And so on. Meaning, the person who has no community spirit is also a bad thing. Then not loving nature. For example, a tree the state just planted, still young, someone walks by, bumps it, it leans over. We don't know how to set it upright, protect it, fence it to help protect that tree so it can grow. That is also not loving nature. That is also a bad thing. And so on. As for the others, like selfishness, envy, hot-temperedness, narrow-mindedness, arrogance, greed, those are clear, right? If a person whose mind is full of such unvirtuous mental states, we guarantee that person is what? Always speaking foolishly. Always acting foolishly. Then the consequence clings on unpleasantly. Just like that doctor Just because he got angry, he applied the medicine, made the person blind. And life after life, he would have bright eyes for half his life, the second half blind. Bright eyes for half, second half blind. Every life was like that, until the day he attained the path. That consequence still had to be paid one final time before it was over. Very frightening. Therefore, we see if we still have anger in our mind, then certainly one day we will do something foolish. Have selfishness in our mind, one day we will do something foolish. For example, drivers. There are some people, they escape accidents by a hair's breadth. At that moment, just a tiny bit more, they would have hit the other car. But some miracle caused them to brake in time. They swerved in time, they didn't hit anyone. But some people just move the car a tiny bit, crash, they hit. The reason why? On the surface normally, we see that no driver wants to cause an accident. But the truth is there are some drivers who drive, but in their heart, there is anger inside. When they are driving, a person on a motorbike drives, recklessly swerving back and forth, they get angry. You're angry, I'll just scrape you and you'll fall now. In the mind, said silently. No one hears. But the idea has already been in the head. The want has already been in the head. The anger has already been in the mind. And certainly one day they will scrape someone for real. Certainly one day their hand or foot will slip and it will be hitting that other motorbike. The person flips over immediately. They die immediately. Seeing this man, we say, it's not bad luck. We say, poor him, he hit someone and they died. But we don't know that the day he accidentally hit someone and they died, before that he had 100 times aroused the thought, he got angry at the people swerving back and forth in front of his car. I'm angry, I'll scrape you, you'll crash, you'll fall, you'll die now. Just a little bit of anger, but one day it can be done. But the driver who always cherishes human life in their mind, never gets angry, drives with absolute yielding. I'd rather yield, I'd rather avoid, I'd rather yield, I'd rather be slow. Never dares to arouse the thought of harming anyone. That person drives their whole life, meets with luck. Many accidents seen clearly right in front of them and they are all avoided. This is a very strange thing. Like that. So our want, it appears from many tendencies. From a virtuous or unvirtuous mind. Therefore, if we keep absorbing unvirtuous things, selfishness, hatred, greed, anger, it's guaranteed, even if we wear an outward appearance of solemnity, of decency, there will be a day we do something foolish. We also meet this in life, right? There are people on the outside, they maintain an appearance of solemnity, of decency. But when we hear the story breaks, there are many stories that are very terrible. Why? It's because the bad tendencies in this person's mind, they did not resolutely eliminate. So, because they did not resolutely eliminate, one day it becomes an action, creates karma. Therefore, the Buddha said, if one speaks or acts with an impure mind, the consequence will certainly come. Because we know better, we must every hour, every minute filter out all of our impure mental states. This is for anyone who knows better, must be like this. There is no other way. We think, oh, I'm not doing anything evil. I'm not harming anyone. I'm not cursing anyone. It's not that simple. There will be a day we harm someone. There will be a day we curse someone. Why? Because when we haven't harmed anyone yet, haven't cursed anyone yet, we have not known how to restrain. We have not cultivated the mind of compassion, of patience. But just the mind of anger, occasionally getting angry, cursing silently in our stomach, arousing anger, wanting to say bad things in our stomach on the outside. Nothing is seen. But the anger occasionally arises. Just hating the neighbor, why don't you just die? For example, there are bad sayings in the mind. On the outside, no one sees. We still think we're decent. Haven't touched anyone. Then someone asks us, why don't you practice? I haven't harmed anyone. I am practicing. On the outside, clearly haven't harmed anyone. But on the inside, what? Insulting people. Constantly. Insulting people all the time. Is that so? Is it? I hope not. I hope we know the path so it's not so. But in the past, was it? It might have been, right? Meaning long ago when we didn't know the path, maybe we were angry like that. We cursed silently, we silently damned others in our stomachs, often maybe couldn't hit anyone, but when really angry in our stomach, we'd say, "I'll hit you once and you'll die," for example. On the outside, no one knows. But in the stomach, is it there? Is it? Tell the truth. I'm begging you, tell the truth. So those thoughts that belong to anger, hatred, anger, resentment like that, they are still waiting for a day for us to create the result. It's just like that. Like two people, they love each other, swear oaths by mountains and seas. But one day suddenly the two break up. Other people don't understand. "Hey, I saw you two loved each other so much. Why did you break up now?" The guy says, "I don't know either." But suddenly she just kept demanding to break up. Then people turn and ask her, they are mutual friends in a group of friends. "It's because in my heart I get angry often. Every time I get angry I demand to break up." Suddenly that decision, it arrives. That day it is fulfilled. That event is fulfilled. So the intention, the action will come. Or the person in their heart keeps cursing others. There will be a day we hit someone. There will be a day we kill someone. It's not simple. Or a person who follows Buddhism, in their mind always dreaming of doing good deeds. "But I'm poor, I can't." Goes to buy lottery tickets. "But I never win." Goes to ask the monk, "Respected teacher, I study the Dhamma, I cherish good deeds. I want to make merit, but I'm poor, so I save money to buy lottery tickets, but why doesn't the Buddha let me win, so I can make merit according to my wish?" There are many people very cute who say that. So the answer is this: merit must come from merit. And from our own hard labor it becomes merit. But to say, because I want to make merit, the Buddha must always let that person win the lottery, then is that still merit? Because the act of making merit becomes too easy, it doesn't become merit. It must come from hard labor, from our past merit. Today, the wealth from the sweat, the tears we made, so when we take that money we do it, the merit truly has value. But the person who keeps nurturing that thought, what will happen? One day they will get to do it. It's like that. So when our mind is pure, the principles of the path are absorbed very thickly inside. Right now, we don't have the conditions to do it, but it's guaranteed that day will come. Up in the heavens, the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas will bring the good deed, will bring the opportunity for us to do it. The only fear is we don't bother to absorb the wholesome. Don't dream of doing the wholesome. Don't have the intention to do the wholesome. Then the wholesome will not come for us to do that. So therefore we must prepare our inner mind first. And preparing the inner mind means preparing many things, as we said earlier, so that every time we encounter a situation we have an intention arise, and that intention is only a good intention, a wholesome intention. So opposite to the unvirtuous mental states we just talked about, there are virtuous mental states. What are virtuous mental states? They are compassion. What else? Humility, generosity, patience, courage, loving nature, sympathetic, joy, cheerfulness. Cheerfulness is also a virtuous mental state. Okay? Cheerfulness is also a virtuous mental state. So virtuous mental states like that fill our minds. It's guaranteed we encounter situations we only arouse a good intention, and we will do a good deed. Then the result will follow us like a shadow that never departs. The Buddha said it like that. Mind precedes all mental states. Mind is the chief, they are mind-made. If one speaks or acts with a pure mind, happiness follows one, like a shadow that never departs. That is the formula. It's clear like that. Up to here, have we understood everything, right? So the mind is the leader. Have mind, then have action. But the truth is, we analyzed carefully, the mind has many parts. The main part is the intention. Have the want, then have speech and action. But however, we also see for us to have a good want requires many other conditions, right? A lot of cultivation, a lot of preparation for days, for months. Only then can we always arouse a good intention. Otherwise, we will be possessed by bad intentions. Now we raise some issues. What about cases of unintentional acts? Not wanting to but doing it. What is the consequence? Because in the Dhammapada commentary, there is a passage like this. When Venerable Kakupala, he went back to the monastery to stay with the Buddha, At that time he was blind. But his willpower was also extraordinary. He still sat, did not lie down, walked, stood, sat still, did not lie down, still meditated frequently. Then one day, one morning, he wanted to do walking meditation. But that day he woke up too early. So the other monks hadn't come out of meditation yet. They hadn't gone out yet. They hadn't swept the yard, swept the ground. Only him, he woke up early. The path, his footsteps, he was used to it. Although he was blind, in one place, I walk a few steps to which spot, where to turn, which step, he fumbles or he touches a tree. He hears, he knows it all. So, early in the morning, he woke up, he opened the door of his hut, he did walking meditation along the edge of the trees. He walked, but because he was blind at that early morning time, he stepped on and killed many insects. Termites walking on the ground, ants, bugs crawling, he stepped, he crushed, killed. He walked past, stepped, walked back, stepped, walked past, stepped, walked back, stepped. After a while the sun came up. The Bhikkhus came out of meditation, they stepped out. They did their exercises, then they prepared to put on their robes, take their bowls to go into the village for alms. Then they saw him slowly doing walking meditation, walking back and forth on that stretch of path. The monks then looked along the path he had walked, and underneath insects lay dead very many. So, a number of young Bhikkhus blamed him. They blamed him. They said, he says he is diligent, he practices, but this morning he walked, he couldn't see, and he stepped on and killed countless insects, harming the heart of compassion. Those monks then went to report to the Buddha. Venerable Lord, Venerable Kakupala has been doing walking meditation since early morning on the path before anyone had swept it, and has stepped on and killed many insects. And so the meaning of this doctrine, what will the consequence be? The Buddha then said, comforting them, O Bhikkhus, Kakupala is a true practitioner. His mind is pure. It is only because Elder Kakupala could not see that he stepped on the insects. And the Buddha did not consider it a sin. Through this sentence we conclude that an unintentional person does not create sin, right? We conclude that be careful of the pitfall. At that time, the Buddha said that sentence because why? Because the Buddha loved Venerable Kakupala. He was afraid he was already blind, and now if he added more, found him guilty, blamed the unintentional accidental killing, it would make him feel guilty, make him feel remorse. So, out of compassion, the Buddha spoke to comfort him. It's okay, because he couldn't see, he accidentally stepped, he is not blamed. So that the young Bhikkhus wouldn't go and nag him anymore, to let him be at peace. Because he was blind, he couldn't go for alms. So usually his disciples would go for alms and bring it back for him to eat. He didn't go for alms. To go, he needed someone to lead him. With a staff, it was inconvenient. He usually stayed home, and that person's life was already unfortunate. Of course, there was past karma, but it was already unfortunate. The Buddha didn't want to sow more mental suffering. It's like that. However, we must not be complacent, because there are unintentional things, but in truth there is a cause. The unintentional things that have a deep cause inside. Just like the driver earlier. That time clearly he unintentionally hit the person. He did not intentionally mean to, but the truth is before that there were intentional minds of anger. There were times he got angry. I'll hit you. Once you'll fall and die now. He had aroused that mind many times. So today there was the unintentional hitting of the person. So there are things we think are unintentional, but I tell you there is a cause inside all of it. It's not that there isn't. For example, how? For example, there is a person, they plant a rice field, and mice often bite and destroy their rice. So they trap the mice by stringing electric wires out to the field. They string up electric wires so that if a mouse touches the wire, it dies. They have no intention of killing people. But one time there was a guy, he unintentionally passed by, he had some business, he had to cross that rice field. He stepped on the electric wire. He fell, he died. So clearly the person who strung the electric wire, did they intend to kill the person? No. But does the law arrest them? Arrests immediately. The law does not allow it. Because in the law there is the crime of accidental killing, manslaughter. assessed by degree, can still be prosecuted as a crime. It's not that it isn't. Here the person who wired electricity to kill mice, not to kill people, but is there a sin? When the person died, is there a sin? We all see there is a sin, right? Why do we blame this person who had no intention of killing? Why? For two reasons. Reason one, this person wanted to kill mice. That is also an intention of killing, right? It is an intention of killing. Reason two, did not love human beings. Because anyone must know, I string up electricity, a person steps in, they die immediately. But they ignored it, didn't bother to pay attention to that fact. Meaning in their mind there was no love for human beings. It is precisely that lack of love for human beings that led to the unintentional accidental killing. So it has a cause. It's not that that person was completely unintentional, didn't want to kill people. No, that person disregarded the fate of other human beings. That's why they set an electric trap and someone unintentionally stepped on it and died. So we see there are unintentional things, but in reality there is a subjective cause. For that specific event, it was unintentional, but there was a subjective cause beforehand. Or, for example, a person, they go into a building. They smoke, they toss the cigarette butt into the trash can. 10 minutes later, the whole building bursts into flames. Unintentional. So when they investigate, they find in the end, the cause is discovered, it was due to the person who unintentionally tossed the cigarette butt. This guy says, I just tossed the butt into the trash can, I didn't intend to burn the building. No, completely unintentional. No intention. But is there a sin? There is a sin. This is not the sin of intentional arson, because if it was the sin of intentional arson, the punishment is extremely heavy. But here it was unintentional. But what reason led to that unintentional act? These are the reasons. First, the first sin is what? Smoking. Anyone who smokes, please don't smoke anymore. Okay? Don't smoke anymore. The second is the sin of carelessness. Not thinking deeply, not bothering to extinguish the cigarette butt properly, and not thinking many people after smoking the burning ember is still lit and they just toss it. Is that so? Many people must be said are terrible. So terrible. Smoking is already wrong. Releasing smoke into this fresh air is already wrong. Then when the butt is still burning, tossing it, not bothering to extinguish it, is the second wrong. But for this particular guy, maybe in the past he aroused many minds, who knows, that caused him to toss it into the trash can. Unexpectedly that day the trash can was overflowing. And that trash can was located next to the electrical wires, hidden in the wall right next to it. 3 or 4 causes combined. The trash started to burn, it heated the wall, it melted the wall, the 2 wires shorted, and the entire electrical system sparked, burned. The whole building burst into flames from just that cigarette butt. But the cause is carelessness. Also the cause, disregarding everyone around. So we must remember this: disregarding everyone around is very frightening. Or the person who has no intention but a broken piece of glass, a broken cup, we toss it carelessly. Drinking, partying, then breaking bottles, breaking glasses for fun. Then someone else steps on it. We have no intention for anyone to get their foot injured. But the carelessness, the disregard for people, the mind that disregards people led to the accidental injury. We must remember that. Or like this. Or a group of people go for a picnic, go into the forest to play. Into the forest during the dry season. So drinking, partying, smashing, after a while the glasses they brought break. The bottles they brought break. But they don't clean it up carefully. In their minds they don't love the people who come after. Because if they picked up all the glass shards, the people after wouldn't step on them and cut their feet. But because they don't love the people after, that mind of not loving people caused them to leave a piece of glass that was curved like a magnifying glass. And when the sun came up, what happened? It focused the fire, it got hot, it burned the dry grass and burned the whole forest was gone. This person in their mind had no intention of burning the forest. But it was precisely their lack of love for human beings that caused the whole forest to burn. So we see often it's said to be unintentional, but there was a subjective cause in there, an unwholesome mind in there. It's not completely unintentional. So we living in this world to avoid those unintentional acts that create karma that are so painful. We try to love human beings. Try to respect the lives of all people. Try to be careful every little bit to not harm anyone. Remember that, can you? Try? Okay. Like carpenters, often dismantling an old house to build a new one, pulling out nails, tossing them scattered everywhere. 3 months later, someone gets tetanus and dies because they didn't pick up the nails. I must know the danger, but because I don't love people, whoever steps on it, their problem. Precisely because in our head we think that someone dies, and we have created unintentional karma because our mind is still defiled at the point of not loving human beings. Therefore, we respect human beings, love human beings, are careful in our actions, do not let harm come to anyone. Then we avoid creating unintentional karma. Earlier, the first part was intentional karma. But even unintentional karma still makes us suffer, feel pain, remorse, regret for the rest of our lives. It's not easy. Is it so? Yes, it is. Then there are people, the opposite is also true. The person who often loves human beings often thinks of the benefit of others, often not intentionally, but still unintentionally helps others, saves others. Strange like that. The opposite of the other. The other person doesn't love human beings, can unintentionally harm people, harm life. Then the person who often arouses the mind to love human beings, always in their mind wants to help people but hasn't directly helped, there will be a time unintentionally they help. For example, one day I'm in a poor student dorm room. Over here I take my guitar, I play, sing a song just for fun. I sing, I listen. My dear friend, try to love people even if people don't love us. Try to love life even if life is dark and deceitful, even if life is bitter as lime. As long as the sky still has many clouds floating, we still just love people. Unexpectedly, the next room, that girl, she took off her rope cord. The next room, she heard the singing. At that moment, she hung the rope from the ceiling. She got on a chair. She was preparing to kick the chair. She would die because she was being deceived by a dark and deceitful world. But unexpectedly, the guy next door sang the song. Even if life is dark and deceitful, even if life is bitter as lime, just keep loving people. And the love has a strange power. When we love people, suddenly we have the strength to live. The person who is weary of life always has only one single reason. They do not love life. But when we love life, love people, we have the strength to live, even if life is suffering. So those are the unintentional things. That young man didn't even know he just saved a person from death. But it wasn't unintentional at all. Why? Because before that he loved human beings. Always wanted to do something to help people, but hadn't done it directly. So today there was an opportunity. He unintentionally did it and helped a person. Or, for example, another time, one evening, just unintentionally couldn't sleep. I got up, went to the park for a walk. Just walking around aimlessly, a man, built quite large, just walking around aimlessly, but I didn't know I had just saved a girl. The girl didn't even know she was just saved by a person wandering around. That is, 2 robbers were already waiting right in that dark corner. And they knew this girl at that exact time would pass that spot. They had watched for many days. They timed it accurately. So on the exact day they were going to strike, at the exact time the girl was walking home that day, I was walking in the park right at that spot. They saw a man, big, tall, strong, wandering around. Forget it. They stopped there. Intention. Unexpectedly that day just saved someone. And I didn't even know. But was it unintentional? No. Only because I had nurtured many aspirations in the days and months before. Love human beings, want to help everyone. And so it caused unintentional opportunities. Life is like that. Very strange. So you see, there is karma that we think we didn't intend, we were unintentional, but in truth there is a subjective intention in there somewhere. It's all there, right? Or, for example, one night I'm sleeping soundly. A thief crawls into the house. When the thief gets into the house, suddenly they hear me say, "If you take one more step, I will not forgive you. You will see this sword. I will release this ultimate move." This guy, the thief, he thought, the owner has seen me. He ran for his life. Didn't know I had just watched a Korean movie and was haunted by it. Just watched it haunted unintentionally saved the whole family from being robbed. Those unintentional things like that in truth have their cause. The cause is our mind has goodness in it. It's like that. But don't think anyone who watches Korean movies will also talk in their sleep and stop a thief. Don't think that. It's not watching Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon, or House of Flying Daggers that will stop a thief. No, it's because our mind is good. Always loving people, helping people, then naturally there are unintentional things that cause us to be able to create wholesome karma. Like that. It's not intentional. Then there are people who misunderstand like this. When I am mindless, whatever I do has no sin. So there is a person they practice following that path. They practice if I am mindless, doing anything has no sin. So they maintain a pure mind, not thinking anything. They grab a fishing rod, go fishing. Pull up the fish grill, it invite everyone to eat. People say, hey, you practice Buddhism, why are you fishing? He says, no, my mind is completely empty. I'm not thinking anything. I do it, but I'm not thinking anything. So I have no sin. Right? Many people think that. And if we take a machine and measure his mind, it's true, this guy's mind has no discursive thoughts. His mind is vacant, empty. He sits and fishes, but his mind is not thinking. Sits and grills fish, mind not thinking. But is there sin? Yes. Why? Because the want, intention, is deeper than discursive thoughts. They can maintain a mind with no discursive thoughts. But the want is not destroyed. There must be a want to grab the fishing rod, go fishing, grill, eat. Or say, I'm not thinking, so I have no sin. Meets a person, goes grabs their shirt, slaps them, kicks them in the waist, they fall over. Hey, why did you do that? No, my mind is mindless. I'm not thinking anything. So I hit them, no sin. Sin? The truth is, if we take a machine and measure his mind, we see it's true. This man has no discursive thoughts. When he slaps the left cheek, turns. Slaps the right, kicks them, his mind is not thinking anything at all. But the want is there. Because why? Because the want is deeper than discursive thoughts. This man doesn't see it. He only sees he has quieted the discursive thoughts. But he has not destroyed the want. And he doesn't know it. That's why there's the story, one time Master Nanquan, he lived high on a mountain. His temple was high on the mountain. One day he went down to visit a lay patron, also a lay disciple, but this man was a wealthy lay patron, very rich, at the foot of the mountain. He went down to visit. When he stepped through the gate, he saw the household already welcoming him, on both sides a feast laid out. Everything. He said, I came, I didn't tell anyone. Why did you know to welcome me? The lay patron clasped his hands. Respected master, last night the local earth spirit appeared and told me that this morning you would come to visit me. The master then lamented, my practice has no power. His mind could be seen by the local earth spirit. But the truth is, it's not like that. The truth is, it's not like that. Even the Buddha, if he does something, there is an intention. And if there is an intention, others can see it. It's not unique to Master Nanquan. Not unique to Master Nanquan. So in the past, there was a time in the early days when the Buddha was teaching, he also had attendants. But many of his attendants were also fun-loving. Sometimes they didn't take care of him thoroughly. It reached the point his age was advanced and he needed an attendant who was more thorough. The Buddha said, today the Tathagata wants a good attendant to take care because the Tathagata is now old. It's not known what the Buddha was thinking. He didn't say any more. He said that sentence, he didn't say any more. At that time, Venerable Moggallana, he focused his mind, looked into the Buddha's mind to see who the Buddha wanted to choose. And he read the Buddha's mind wanted to choose Venerable Ananda. So there is an intention and someone knows it immediately. Even though the Buddha's mind is very pure. But there must be an intention to have an action. The Buddha wants to go for alms, the Buddha wants to visit someone, the Buddha wants to speak a certain Dharma talk, all have a want. And even wanting to choose Venerable Ananda also had an intention. And Venerable Moggallana entered jhana and he saw that intention immediately. And so he stood up. He went over to Venerable Ananda and said this. He said, Venerable, please rejoice for the sake of the world-honored one's health, and also on behalf of the Sangha, please be the attendant to serve the world-honored one. Venerable Ananda then said this. He said, to be able to serve the world-honored one is my happiness. But good sir, if I am to serve the world-honored one, please allow me to have some conditions. Venerable Moggallana said, certainly. Good sir, please state what the conditions are. And so Venerable Ananda, he set the conditions. He said, first, I will not eat the Buddha's leftover food. The Buddha's food was very delicious, and when the attendant eats the leftover food, people will think, this man, he's taking advantage of being the attendant, so he gets to eat the good food. Second, I will not accept the Buddha's leftover robes. Meaning, cloth people offer to the Buddha often in surplus, the Buddha often gives it away, and the attendant is often the one who gets priority. He said, I will not accept that priority so as not to be slandered, criticized. He's the attendant, so he gets priority benefits. And third, if someone wants to come meet the Buddha, and if I request, please, Buddha, receive them. Because meeting the Buddha was also difficult as the Buddha was also busy. But if I stand outside ISS, I see that person is worthy. Please, Buddha, allow them to meet if I request it. Meaning he had many conditions. At that time, Venerable Moggallana reported back to the Buddha. The Buddha agreed. And from then on, the Buddha had the greatest attendant in this world. From 1 billion years before 1 billion years after, there has never been an attendant who served the Buddha as thoroughly, as wonderfully as Venerable Ananda. And it was also from that night. But the Buddha had an intention, and Venerable Moggallana read that intention. Therefore, if we think, I'm not thinking anything, I do it, there's no sin, please understand that is a misunderstanding. Why? Because the intention is deeper than our thoughts. We cannot think anything and we still act. But please understand, if there is an action, there is a want. Remember that. If there is an action, there is a want. And so now we don't need to check, is our want good or bad? We don't need to check, are our discursive thoughts always good or bad? We look at this and we know if our mind is good or bad. Look at things like this, we check by this. When we see others happy, successful, we look at our mind. Is it happy or sad? If others are happy, successful, and we are happy, is our mind good or bad? Good. Certainly. Even without thinking, any want that arises will also be good. It's like that. But if we see others happy, successful, and suddenly we just feel difficult, uncomfortable, then our mind, what's in it? An impure mind. A bad mind. Please try to adjust to practice. Remember that, okay? So here there are things that are deeper than discursive thoughts that we can see. We must be vigilant. So there are people sometimes after 3 months of diligent sitting meditation, the mind attains purity. And they say, oh, I have attained purity. But a person with clear sight looks in and sees this person's discursive thoughts have lessened, but their arrogance has increased a lot. Strange. Why? Because the arrogance is deeper than the discursive thoughts. This person purified the discursive thoughts. But the arrogance secretly inside has developed stronger than before. This is a very difficult thing to control. Very difficult to control. One must have extreme wisdom to control this. Therefore we practice be careful. Sometimes we lessen discursive thoughts, but the ego is increasing. Be careful. Because our intention, our arrogance is deeper than our discursive thoughts, very much so. Today we studied together the first lesson, the mind is the chief. From this mind is the chief, we create karma. And from this karma we have the result. But we reminded each other a lot about what is the mind, right? Today we emphasized what is the mind, because just saying mind generally, in truth, we don't understand it clearly. As for the creating karma, then having a result that relatively we understand easily, because we have talked a lot. What karma created leads to what result, we have talked a lot. But the mind that creates the intention to create karma, today we talked at length a bit like that. Is the Dhammapada verse easy to understand? Easy to understand? It looks that way, but it's not easy, huh? Hear it once, understand immediately. But digging deep, we see there are still many issues. Grasp it like that. Still a few minutes, let's remind each other of this. Coming up in Buddhism, there is a very big ceremony. What is it? The Buddha's Enlightenment Day. The meaning is extremely important. But for many thousands of years, we have been very indifferent. This is the fault of all Buddhist disciples in the world, is having been indifferent to the Buddha's Enlightenment Day. Today we must end that fault. And we must honor the Buddha's Enlightenment Day. Remember that. How do we honor it? Is hope that every temple organizes the Enlightenment Day ceremony really big? That's the first thing. Second, it's almost Enlightenment Day. We must remind each other, sister, it's almost Enlightenment Day. Let's do something meaningful to offer to the Buddha. We just call on the phone this place. We send letters that place to remind each other the Buddha's Enlightenment Day is coming. And please, everyone, let's do something to offer to the Buddha. In a moment, we will be given a card. The Enlightenment card. And that card is a blank card. It's not a gift to us. Okay? In a moment, the venerable monks and nuns will give the devotees blank cards. We devotees, whoever we love and respect, we will write to that person a card and send it to remind that person of the Enlightenment Day. In a moment, we will be given them like that. And wish all devotees to always be happy like a shadow following the form. Because our minds are always pure. And our speech and actions are all very, very good things. And wish everyone that we step into the Enlightenment Day just like stepping into a new year, receiving much luck, goodness, happiness, diligence, and success. Homage to the original Master Shakyamuni Buddha. If anyone has a question, please bring the question up. Q&A section. Question: in a lecture, a monk answered a disciple's question as follows. Beauty is not a sin. Seeing a beautiful person, we can just admire them. As long as we don't have the thought of possessing a woman's body is provocative. If we keep admiring, it will give rise to wicked thoughts. Is the answer of that lecturer correct according to the true Dhamma or not? When there are many beautiful things we admire, there is little sin. But a woman's body, if admired, what happens? There's a problem. There's a problem immediately. Why? Because nature has set a trap. Set a sensual trap for all sentient beings. That is, the chromosomes of a man have X and have the Y-shaped chromosome, it creates a current. Then the chromosomes of a woman are X chromosomes, it creates a type of current. A biological current. And those two currents always attract each other. Therefore, for example, we gaze at a beautiful flower. We gaze, we are not moved. We gaze at a beautiful painting, we are not moved. We gaze at majestic mountains, beautiful, we are not moved. But gaze at a naked body of a woman, immediately hit. Therefore this answer is not standard. And a noble one, they hate the defiled stirring in their mind. A worldling who sees something related to sensuality, it stirs up in the mind, they really like it and chase after. But for a noble one, if it stirs just a little bit like a speck of dust, it is very uncomfortable. They destroy it immediately. Never allow it to happen. Therefore, gazing at a woman's body so that one is stirred is unacceptable. Unacceptable. Gazing at other beautiful things is fine. Don't gaze at a woman's body. Not good. Not good. Question: when merit is exhausted, at the end of life our form, feeling, perception aggregates also dissolve, only the formations and consciousness aggregates remain the hiding place of the ego, because if there is no real ego, who commits the sin? Who enjoys the merit? What remains after changing the body from Mr. A to Mr. B? No. This physical body dissolves. But we still have the form aggregate of the spirit, Lin Han. The spirit still has a form. So the form aggregate still remains. Okay? Feeling aggregate, perception aggregate all remain intact. Nothing is exhausted. Nothing is lost. Only a practitioner entering deep meditation loses the form aggregate, loses the feeling aggregate, loses the perception aggregate. Only due to meditation, not due to death. Death from this state to another state, the five aggregates remain intact. Okay, that's all. As for, if there is no real self, ego, who causes the sin and who suffers the consequence? Hear this question many people ask. The Buddha also often said, like this, The truth is we have an illusory self to commit the sin. That is our formation's aggregate. The hiding place of the ego, it commits the sin. When the consequence, the suffering, is what? It is the feeling aggregate that suffers. But the feeling aggregate, the formation's aggregate, they are stuck together, so there is still an illusory self to commit the sin and an illusory self to receive the consequence. Even though the nature is just things combined, just dependent conditions, but stuck together very tightly, and still causes the feeling aggregate to be extremely pained. The feeling aggregate is extremely pained. Question, for example, when karma is created evil, then day and night reading the Lotus Sutra, because one thinks even if one creates sins higher than a mountain, it does not tire the wonderful Dharma's few lines. Is that neutralizing the law of cause and effect? Is it? I tell you no. Chanting the Lotus Sutra is chanting, but paying the consequence is still paying. Okay. Question, there is a teaching about borrowing merit. May that power grant a visa to that devotee who is in need, may their wish be accomplished. Respected teacher, so with a subject who has no merit at all, is the Dharma master helpless? Is that right? The person who first has absolutely no merit and second has no virtue, then it's true praying to borrow merit does not work. Okay. No one will give it. Meaning the mind is too selfish, insidious in the past, did not create merit. When meeting misfortune, praying is not effective. For example, we accept we have no past merit, but I tell you, if we have virtue, we will be allowed to borrow merit. Why? Because when we have virtue, we will be able to make merit to repay it. But the person with no virtue, they also won't bother to make merit to repay it. So it's not effective. Praying is not effective. Question, respected teacher, due to some karma, a person often suffers from bad public opinion, but in reality they are not a bad person, it's due to envy, jealousy that it happens. In this case, can the venerable monks through meditation see this and clear their name for them? At the karma of being attacked by bad public opinion has many causes. It's not just in the past we slandered people. No, it's because in the past on the battlefield we killed people. On the battlefield we killed people. Now they cannot kill our body back because our virtue is greater. So they kill us back by killing our reputation. That is also a way of taking revenge. So those people who in the past were generals riding across battlefields fighting east and west in the next life are reborn with many enemies, often slandered by people. Question, revered teacher, this is the second time I have heard the Dharma. So good. May I ask this? A mother carries the heavy burden. The pain of childbirth raises the child until the day the child has a family, or ordains to be liberated to escape the family scene. Venerable teacher, is that unfilial? Because one has not yet repaid that gratitude. If one practices not seriously, it is unfilial. But if one practices seriously, brings benefit to sentient beings, then one's mother shares, enjoys that merit. Then it is still repaying the gratitude. Okay. Question, respected teacher, please explain the term diligent practice, what it is and why diligent practice has no merit, while communal service does have merit. Usually diligent practice is the diligent practice of personal cultivation. For example, we chant sutras, we sit in meditation, that is called diligent practice. We train something that is called diligent practice. But communal service has merit because communal service, we bring benefit to others. For example, we sweep the temple. Others can walk on a clean path. We wash dishes, cook rice, others eat. We build a temple, there is a place for others to stay. So communal service is something we do that others enjoy. While diligent practice, we sit, we chant, we practice by ourselves. So others don't enjoy it. So it's called having no merit. But it looks that way, but it still has merit. Okay? It looks that way, but it still has merit. Why? Because we create an example. We create an example causing others to see us practicing well, and they also want to be good. They stop doing bad things. That is also a teaching without words. So diligent practice in principle has no merit, but it still has merit.